Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the All Sports Betting Podcast. We're back to cover the second match in the Cricket World Cup 2019, and that is West Indies against Pakistan from Trent Bridge. So, a couple of interesting teams on show in Nottinghamshire here, Kev. And the bookies can't actually separate either of them, 1.91 apiece. I think if you can look in detail, you might just about get evens on either side. So as far as the bookies are concerned, they can't be split. How do you see it in terms of favouritism?
Pretty much the same way, actually, Steve. Certainly pre-toss anyway. I wouldn't want to be on either of them. I'd hazard a guess at saying before Tuesday, Pakistan would have been favourites for this match. But an awful lot of odds slashing has taken place since some of these warm-up games, haven't they? And obviously, West Indies warmed up for this game by belting New Zealand all around Bristol. In fact, I think I read somewhere that Andre Russell hit the fourth tier of the flats at Bristol and was within inches of clearing them completely. So fair to say he's in a bit of form. Look, this is the smallest ground in the country now. It's almost impossible to defend. I mean, England have put up scores of 450 and 481 on this ground, haven't they? That's the sort of size of scores that you can get. Pakistan made 340 in the ODI here earlier in the month. England collapsed and still chased it down. So, who knows how many runs are going to be scored in terms of teams batting first, and who knows what could be chased. But I certainly wouldn't be on the side batting first, that is for sure.
Yeah, we'll have to start as ever with the ground report. And there's it's a very, like you said, small ground now. Some of the dimensions I just want to talk to the listeners about. Square of the wicket, just 64 metres each square. There's even a 62-metre boundary, which must be about, I think, the smallest boundary on any ground used in this World Cup, even smaller than anything at Taunton. And really, there's not even much. There's one boundary is a little bit bigger in the opposite corner, but it's not just the size of the ground here, is it, Kev? The wickets themselves are absolute belters usually.
Absolutely, yeah. One of the best betting grounds in the country now. Nottinghamshire regularly making 400 here in 50 over cricket, aren't they? Both this year and last year. There was a game last year actually where they played Northamptonshire. 430 played about 420. I mean, it was crazy. There's already been 400s here in the 50 over competition domestically this season. Pakistan made 340 and it never looked like being enough in the ODI here earlier in the year. I mean, you mentioned that 62-yard boundary, Steve. That's being generous, that 62 yards, because I've seen it a lot shorter than that. I wouldn't be surprised if it's less than 55 yards at some point in this tournament when there's, dotting around from pitch to pitch. Maybe that's 62 yards from the centre of the square, but it's definitely not 62 yards on every single pitch. And some of the players on show here, I mean, Jesus Christ, even if you're in the back row, you need to take a crash helmet.
Yeah, it's pretty damn sick, actually, is that? Yeah, it's 62 metres from the centre of the wicket, but it's not guaranteed to be right in the middle there. Weather report for the game at this stage looks good. Not necessarily sunny, pretty overcast afternoon, but nice and warm, 21 degrees. A little bit of a breeze up there, up to 25-mile-an-hour gusts, but only a 10% chance of rain. So it looks like should be a full match played. Tough match to call pre-toss. Two, evenly matched sides perhaps on paper. So it makes sense to go into some other betting markets for the game. You mentioned you expect it to be high scoring, and this is the centre of attention for a lot of your picks for this match. Let's start with the runs. You've got a runs bet, over 610.5 runs to be scored in this game, which basically, I mean, you're just going to need, if 306 was set by the team batting first, all you would need is someone to chase that down, wouldn't you?
Yep, 305 batting first, and then chasing side wins. Job's a good one.
But realistically, I mean, even if, the 306, 305 is not a big total on this ground, is it?
It's not a big total anywhere now, really, is it? I mean, par scores anywhere these days, 325, 330. Least of all, a small ground with a fantastic batting deck. The other thing you got to factor in, forget the batsmen on show here. Just look at the bowling attacks. They're both pathetic. Pakistan's just been all around England in that ODI series. And I mean, Bangladesh were hitting West Indies to all parts. I mentioned in our outright preview that Ireland scored 300 against West Indies out in that Tri-Nations tournament earlier in the month. So no offence to Ireland, but if Ireland is scoring 300, every team in this competition should be pushing 300 against them. So unless there's some sort of abomination or some freak that happens, you're looking at bare minimum 325 plays 325 here.
Yeah, that's over 610.5 runs at Bet365. I can't remember the exact price, Kev, but it's around about 45.
10 to 11, I think.
10 to 11. That looks a juicy price, I must be honest. And sticking with the theme of runs, you expect a fair number of them to come in sixes. Sixes line at 14.5 here with Betfair Sportsbook 4 to 5. And again, I mean, we've pretty much talked about the dimensions of the ground, and 15 sixes over the course of the match doesn't seem a big ask, does it really?
Well, I expected someone to be on crack in this tournament, but I didn't expect the odds compilers to be on it this early in the tournament, Steve. I mean, I don't know what pipe they've been smoking, but they want to lay off it because this is just an absolutely ridiculous line. I mean, in that ODI between England and Pakistan earlier this summer, there was 15 sixes, and England completely collapsed in the middle order. So there'd have been a hell of a lot more than that. If I just read out the last six, most recent first, the totals have been 15, 8. That 8 was when Butler didn't play for England against India. 28, 21, 9, and 21. So 3 of the last 6 ODIs here have had 6 totals well into the 20s. I've already mentioned in various podcasts that we've done about the West Indies 6-hitting prowess. Pakistan have showed plenty of it in their series against England. Both these sides are going to be teeing off. I know it's a World Cup game, but it is still effectively a group game. Call it the first game in the series, if you will. They're not going to clam up or anything like that. Both teams know they're going to need 350 just to be competitive. And really on this ground, it's 1, 4 or 6. There's no other denominations, not unless maybe a mishit might go for 2. But there's nothing else. The ground's too small. So, West Indies don't run. So they're hitting 4s or 6s. Pakistan, well, they can't run, can they? They're terrible between the wickets. So they'll be hitting 4s or 6s. The choice came down to boundaries, which I think the line's 68.5, or 6s, 14.5. And I think the 14.5, certainly based on recent ODIs here, covered in 4 of the last 6. That's going back to the last World Cup. All the indications suggest that 4 to 5 is a daft price on a daft line.
Yeah, you're not going to run many 3s on this ground, are you? That would certainly suit me. I'll say that much. But in terms of, I mean, over 14.5 6s and over 610.5 runs, I mean, which is the bigger stake that you're going to have here?
Oh, 6s, yeah.
That's how many points bet, would you say?
Yeah, the whole hog, all 10.
All 10, a maximum bet. There you go. An absolute, basically, you can call this in horse racing terms the nap.
Without a doubt, yeah. I'll be surprised if we find a better bet in the first round of matches.
And let's go back to 6s again. You're going to have an individual performance 6 bet here. You already backed him to score the most 6s in the whole tournament, but Andre Russell over 1.5 6s. You can get odds against on him doing that in this match. And I mean, you mentioned that he near enough cleared the 4th tier, was it? At Bristol or something? I mean, how many tiers do you reckon that it would be there then?
4 tiers of flats, and by all accounts, he was inches from clearing the lot. I mean, you're looking at straight boundary at Bristol, maybe 65 yards. Bang it up to 4 tiers, probably looking comfortably 100 yards.
Yeah. It's a monstrous hit, let's just say, that we're talking about. What numbers is he going to bat in the order, roughly, for West Indies?
Probably not a number. It's probably what over is he going to walk in at, and I would imagine somewhere between 35 and 40. Unless, of course, they've lost wickets before then.
Is he the sort of bloke who's going to tee off straight away, or will he give himself a little bit of time to get in usually?
He used to tee off straight away, but he does give himself a little bit of time now. 2 balls, 3 balls, then we'll get going.
I mean, I don't know what his run line would be for this game. I'm guessing around about the 25-30 mark. But you might as well back the 6s because the amount of... I mean, most of his runs do come in boundaries, don't they? So it kind of makes sense.
They come in 6s. I mean, it's a miss hit if it goes for 4, not a miss hit if it goes for 6. I mean, his miss hits will go for 6 on this ground. But he knows all about the ground, doesn't he? He's played for Nottinghamshire in the T20 Blast. So this is his home ground in England, if you like. He'll know every dimension of it. He'll know where to go, where not to go, which way the wind blows, which way it doesn't blow. I mean, take your pick of the boundaries. None of them are big enough for him, but I mean, if someone bowls it short to him, and let's be honest, that's probably the best tactic. Someone bowls it short to him with that new stand down on the leg side. I mean, Christ almighty, he could put it into, I don't know, Notts County's ground, the other side of Notts Forest's ground. It's ridiculous.
Right, so Andre Russell over 1.5 sixes at 11-10. What bookmaker was that, Kev?
Ladbrokes.
At Ladbrokes. So you got one other bet for this game. It's a bigger price, so obviously a smaller stake. It's in the top Pakistan bowling market. I mean, this looks like it's going to be utter carnage, but I guess the odd wicket will fall, and you're going with Mohamed Hafiz at a big price of 7-1.
Yeah, I mean, it's speculative, to be honest. You can't back a top batsman in this game because one of the top three is going to score a century or, fill their boots. If there is a weakness in this West Indies side, though, it very much comes in the form of they can't play spin. I mean, they're terrible at playing spin. Mohamed Hafiz, and we're not going to get much spin here at Trent Bridge, we must say, but Mohamed Hafiz, he can usually get the ball to turn. He's got that kind of golden arm, hasn't he? I mean, more often than not, it's a bent arm, but that's neither here nor there. Maybe you just pick up a couple of wickets. Literally everyone who's anyone in this West Indies side, with the exception of Shai Hope's a left-hander. So everyone in the top six is just going to be left-hander after left-hander after left-hander. So I would imagine that Hafiz will get a few overs under his belt, taking the ball away from the left-handers. He can vary his pace a little bit. It's a long shot. He won't be bowling at the death or anything like that. But if he can snap a couple during the middle overs, it might be enough. Like you say, there ain't going to be many wickets here. 2 wickets might be enough to nail the job, and that'll be enough. Just on that, take it with a bookie that pays out on dead heats. Don't do none of this economy rate nonsense, because someone like Dre Russ gets stuck into him, and it's good night nurse.
So what bookies do you need to be betting on there for the dead heat market?
I'm not sure of all of them, Steve, but I know William Hill are the best price here, and they pay out dead heat. So stick with them if you can. The other thing I should also mention, Steve, for those that are in England who don't have Sky Sports, this tournament is being streamed live on bookmakers' websites if you've got a funded account or you've had a bet recently. So certainly Betfair are. I know that much on Bet365. So if you need another streaming option or an option to watch these bets that we're putting up, get a bet on with one of them and happy days.
Very good. That's a good bit of. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who will be interested to hear that news. Just before we finish, we will have a quick little gander at the top bat market. We know it's difficult here, but Pakistan, I know you're a big fan of Babar Azam. He's 3-1 favourite to top score for them. Fakhar Zaman, sort of 4.5. Inzamam ul Haq, 3-1. Imam ul Haq, not Inzamam ul Haq, sorry.
Even Inzi will score well here, don't you worry.
He would certainly have enjoyed a place like this, wouldn't he? Wouldn't have to run at all. Is there any? I mean, you're not looking beyond the top 3 or 4 on either team, basically.
It's impossible. I mean, realistically, if you're going down the order for a top batsman, you need the top 4 to be out 50 or less. Someone will go beyond 50. I mean, the wicket's too good, the boundaries are too short. That's not to say someone can't come in and splatter a 50 ball 100 or something, but you're not getting value on. I mean, you're getting 7 or 8 to 1 beyond the top 4. That doesn't happen every 7 or 8 innings, does it? So. Recent form guide, Babar Azam scored 100 here for Pakistan in the ODI. That might be worth looking into if you are taking a top batsman. Maybe he's the one to focus on. West Indies, let's hope Shai Hope follows up his ton from the other day with another one.
Chris Gale, are you expecting to see some fireworks from him in this game? Is he going to be up for it?
Well, he'll be up for it. Yeah, last World Cup, first game of the last World Cup. Left-hander looking at that short boundary. I mean, you don't even need to wear glasses to see that, does he? He must be able to step 2 steps and he's there. He'll be bang up for it. I just wonder if he'll get lured into that boundary. I wonder if Pakistan are street smart enough to keep it away from him and make him do something he doesn't want to do. If they don't, I mean, Jesus, carnage is going to take place, isn't it?
I know he's been known to get his eye in a bit more these days, and but that short boundary really will. I mean, eyes will light up for everyone on the field, really, especially those left-handers.
And also, I mean, if Pakistan do bat first and they score 360, 370, 380, he ain't got time to play himself in, has he? So, he could fill his boots here big time. I mean, if you are in that new stand, do watch out for the cricket ball because it's going to be flying at you an awful lot. That's if it stays inside that stand, of course.
Okay, well, the umpires for the game, Mariah Erasmus and Chris Gaffney. And that pretty much is all we've got time for in this episode. We'll be back for a double header on Saturday. 2 matches for Saturday. New Zealand against Sri Lanka and Afghanistan against Australia. But from this particular episode, best of luck with all those picks, Kev. And we'll catch you for Saturday's games.
Cheers, Steve. All the best, mate.